Yeah, this is the space for fathers, for families, for the future. I am dad, stand proud. Yeah, I am dad, standing strong, raising voices where we belong. For the children, for the love, guided by the strength above. Safe space where the fathers meet, stories flow with the steady beat. From the pain to the joy we share, every voice is welcome here. Lord, I am dad, we rise together, building love that lasts forever. Community strong, our hearts are true. Father, shine in all we do.
Welcome to I Am Dad Podcast. I'm your host, Kenneth Braswell. Thank you for joining us for another episode in our 5th season. It's the beginning of the year, and I keep thanking you all for the support of I Am Dad. I probably will do it to the better part of the year, just so you remember how much I am appreciative, of the feedback, of the guests, the thoughts of the guests, the lives of the guests, and the subject in and of itself. And so, like I say to you, I didn't know I would be here 5 years doing this. I thought that, 5 years ago I would do this. It's a great thing to do. It's a fad. I'll do it until I get tired of it and I'll go on to the next fad. But yet here I am. But one of the reasons that I'm here is because every time I interview someone, they literally change a little bit of my perspective about being a parent, about talking to parents, about inspiring parents, about understanding parents, not only through the lenses of how they see it, but they give me a reflection on how I see it through my own lens as a dad and as a husband and as an inspirer and influencer and all of that stuff. And how do we make sense of this stuff? Because there is no manual. We know that. We know that we parent in the model that we were parented, and everybody wasn't parented with the greatest model. And some of us, while we did have great models, they still had flaws. And so what's good for one person is not good for the next person. So my thought is always to bring different perspectives so that you can find your own story and your own pathway in the narrative. And our guest today is going to help us do that. He is Joe Carr. He's the voice behind Dadicated Joe. I keep wanting to say Dadicated. I'm sure it's dedicated, but I like Dadicated. So it's dedicated. We'll let him clear that up. Joe, and the creator of a community dedicated to helping new fathers navigate the early and often overwhelming season of parenthood as a husband, dad to his daughter, Delia, and co-founder of Serenity Kids Baby Food. Joe combines lived experience with honesty, practical guidance for dads who find themselves asking the same question he once did: how do I show up fully for my family when there's no manual for this? Man, I love that. Through his podcast, resources, and relatable conversation, Joe invites fathers into the space where vulnerability, growth, and commitment intersect, encouraging them not just to survive early fatherhood, but to embrace the transformative way that it brings to the totality of our lives. How you doing, Joe? I'll take you off mute. Let me ask you that again. How you doing?
Hey, awesome. So great to be here.
So is it dedicated or dedicated?
Yeah, dedicated is the play on words, So dedicated, which to me means you show up your full self, with all the intention of being a great dad. That's really the most important thing, is that intention of I'm going to be here no matter what. I'm dedicated.
Cool. We did, as a part of our work with the Fatherhood Go with the federal platform, we created a message platform 3 or 4 years ago called Dadication. We called it Dadication.
Cool. Yeah,
And,
great idea.
We've since had to move on for it because different ideas bring in different messages, but it was a great run when we had it.
Yeah.
Listen, we start our podcast off very uniquely because I love to bring in this particular element of the conversation because it brings context to the person that I'm interviewing. You can tell your story however you want to tell it, whether it is from your perspective, the perspective of being a son, perspective of however you want to tell it. But everybody has a daddy story. What's your daddy story?
Oh, that's a good one. Uh, Interesting. The first thing that comes to mind was I think I was like 4, and my dad came home and his head was bleeding.
Wow.
And I ran to jump on him like I always did, and it was like probably the first time he ever said, "No, don't jump on me. My head's bleeding." And he had just come from the airport. He was a hobbyist private pilot, and this ladder had like fallen on his head, and like he was bleeding. And he drove himself home, holding the pad with one hand. And my mom looked at it, was like, "You got to go to the hospital. I mean, this is stitches. Like this is serious." And he's like, "Oh, I don't know." But for some reason, he took me with him. And I don't know if I wanted to go or why he went with, but basically my mom stayed with my sister, and he and I went to the hospital, and he got stitches in his head, and he refused anesthesia.
Mm.
Just do it. I'm just, tough it out. He sort of argued that he needed stitches at all. And then he's like, okay, but no anesthesia. I'm going to take it. And he literally needled a needle, like felt all this pain. And he was very proud of this. To this day, he'll talk about how he didn't take stitches for that. And I don't have a lot of early childhood memories, but that one, and I drew him this picture that he still has while he was in there. And it's like as a memory of like dad and sort of his idea of like toughness
Hmm.
or like independence. Like, I don't need somebody to drive me home. He didn't call my mom and say, "I'm bleeding, come get me." Like he drove himself. This, like, I don't need anything, and I'm tough, and I'm proud of the fact that I'm tough. And like, it was just this interesting message I got that I think is like anything good and bad, like I'm independent, I can take anything, but also like, get the anesthesia, dude. Like, why? Like, why
Wow.
would you not take anesthesia? So
But it's so old school,
yeah,
right? It's so old
yeah,
school. It's like, yeah, it's like the man, it's like the John Wayne manly man, right? Who's
I
like,
guess so.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
tough this out. It reminds me, I don't know if you watch and binge shows like I do. I watch everything through the father lens. I don't care what I'm watching, I watch it through the father lens. So anytime there's a show that has a very strong father theme in it, whether it's about that or not, I am attached to. Yellowstone did that for me. I
Mm,
don't know if you've watched Yellowstone.
yeah.
My goodness, the theme in that around Kevin Costner and his, it's old West, right? And so these things are happening, and you're watching like men be men, and you're cringing. It's just like, man, I'm not built for that. I'm glad I was born when I was born, because I don't know if, going to the hospital with my head bleeding, I would have said, not give me all the drugs you got, 'cause I need
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, for sure.
Question for you. Another interesting way just to create some content for you. If your household was a TV show, would it be a drama, a comedy,
Oh man.
reality
Yeah,
show?
right. Action movie. My household growing up,
Your household
uh,
now.
my household now, would be like one of those like funny dramas, like heartwarming. It's drama, but it's like there's funny moments and you love everybody, and like it's not a thriller, like it's not tense. Very
Give me a show that it would be a little bit synonymous with. Everybody Loves Raymond?
Oh man, yeah, like I don't watch that many shows like that. It's funny, in my life, I watch shows that are very different from my life. So,
Okay.
yeah, so it's hard to I have so like was it called Parenthood?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Yes, I remember Parenthood.
Yeah, that was very warm, very like, there were funny moments. It was very real. I think it was called Parenthood. That was probably this similarish. We don't have as big a family as them, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What brought you to doing, your podcast?
yeah, became a dad at the same time as launching our baby food products,
Okay.
and it was, one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Mhm.
Both, I had some entrepreneurial experience, but launching that company was tough. But like having the baby and having the same time was really hard. And I've always wanted to be a dad. I drew pictures of my future children when I was 5, so I still have those pictures. Brittany and Jason were my kids that I envisioned having someday. So I've always wanted to be a father. So I dreamt of this moment, planned for this moment, learned a lot about pregnancy and birth, and had started schools and was really into like education and like child development. And was really into it, and yet everything I learned or prepared for was almost useless. Like it's
Hmm.
just everything you're making up as you go along. You're figuring it out. You're asking lots of questions. My wife had lots of fears. I had lots of confusions, and so there was just like, and I after about 2 months, I was at almost a breaking point of like, I don't know if I could do this. I don't, like what do I need to do? Like I'm like depressed and I'm angry, and I just was burned out and had to like really build a dad community and figure out how to get self-care and stop like white knuckling it and sacrificing myself and rebuild my romantic relationship with my wife and like all these things. And I was like, man, there's got to be an easier way. There's got to be more resources for this. And so, and also as we're selling baby food, we're really talking to these families that are in that kind of first year of life. Like the 6 months is when baby food starts. So really getting to know that customer also helped me see how few resources there are. Postpartum change is the most disruptive thing of any adult's life. Having a
Hmm.
baby, it's a rite of passage for both
Hmm.
men and women.
Hmm.
And there's crazy disruptive, incredibly powerful moment, very, very hard to do, and so few resources. There's all this stuff on pregnancy, all this stuff on birth, and all this stuff on parenting in general, like raising kids,
Hmm.
but so little on this first year of life. Like, okay,
Hmm.
the baby comes out, and now you've got about a year before they're kind of stabilized into a somewhat predictable little kid. Uh,
Hmm.
and there was just nothing for there's hardly anything for even moms in there, but nothing for dads. All these dad podcasts, they all
Hmm.
want to talk about fatherhood, like in general. I was
Right.
like, I want like practical tips and tricks. Like, what do I do in the first month of the
Hmm.
baby coming? What do I do when I've just found out she's pregnant? What do I do like when it's time to potty train? And so it's like I wanted to create something that was very, very practical for dads who have very limited time with newborns that are like, I want to be a dad. I've always, I'm ready. What does that mean to me? Both like transitioning into the identity of being a dad and also practically like what are some tips and tricks to make it even just a little bit easier, because the
Hmm.
identity shift is already so hard
Hmm.
that like if the day-to-day can be even remotely easier, I love to help with that.
Yeah. What was the thing that you were most fearful of? Because I think that when you think about dads in that moment, back in, I hate using back in the day, but it gives context, right? Men would say, I don't want to drop the baby, right? That was their main thing. I don't want to hold the baby because I don't want to drop the baby. Like, what is that thing today that
You
men
know,
just feel like they can't do?
it's funny. What my first thought is what my biggest fear then, and probably one of my biggest fears now, is like getting judged by my wife.
Ah.
Like, I actually didn't worry about doing anything too wrong with the baby. Like, I felt like I'm just my personality's like, they're resilient and they'll figure it out. And I'm pretty strong. And like, we've eliminated most risks. So I have I'm fairly risk tolerant in general, but
Mm.
like but my wife is not, she's very risk averse and she's very, cautious and careful. And so I sort of live in fear of like appearing to do it wrong
Mm.
to my wife. I don't honestly believe I did it wrong.
Mhm,
It's just
mhm,
the punishment of doing it wrong in her eyes was so great. But that
mhm.
was kind of was my biggest fear. I still live it. It's still something I'm still working on, like how I integrate that risk.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because I've often said to people that my wife validates my manhood.
Hmm.
And people say, well, what do you mean by that? And it's because, my wife has the best vantage view of my functionality as both a husband and a father.
Hmm.
And it's not a right or wrong that she's determining. It is a commitment and engagement that she's determining.
Yeah.
And so when I am engaged, she is appreciative. When I'm not engaged in either, whether it is being a husband or being a father, I can feel that through her. And the better I do it, those things, the more engaged and committed I am to whatever, the more she validates my manhood. I think that men, for the most part, think that manhood is something else, right? Is
Hmm.
it's not. And so when you talk about your wife in that way, how did she? Because now you got my head spinning. Like, what is the thing that she uses? to validate you? Is it her voice? Is it her actions? What is it?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it's a really good question, because I have probably spent more time thinking about how she invalidates me. Right. So like I can tell you that long list. But on some level, it's kind of the same thing. And I think a lot of men get confused about this, that women, when they criticize us,
Mm,
when they point out what we're doing wrong or what they want better from us, that actually is them saying, I believe it can be better. I am courageous enough to ask this of you because I believe you can do it. And I
mhm,
want you to handle it so that I feel safe and handled by you, which is what they're most attracted to.
mhm.
So on some level, her staying married to me at all is validating. Like, she's an amazing, powerful,
Mhm,
beautiful woman that,
mhm,
you know, doesn't even need a man. Like, she could, at this point in her life, probably,
mhm,
like, you know, be single and be fairly happy, or date or whatever.
mhm.
Um, and probably be a great mom.
What's
So, like, on some level, the fact that, like, she keeps me around, I feel sort of like daily, I would like to say, like, a daily gratitude of, like, wow, I'm married to her. Like, she loves me. Like, that's
keeps
great.
your usefulness, right? Keeps your
Yeah.
usefulness around
Yep,
the house. Yeah.
but yeah, she challenges me all the time. I mean, there's never been a day she doesn't challenge me in some way.
Mhm,
Sometimes the challenge is overt, like, "Hey, you said you were gonna do this thing and it's not done.
mhm,
WTF?" And sometimes it's like, you know, a deep expression of like love and gratitude that is also hard for me to receive. Like, that's
mhm.
like a lot for me to receive too, or just asking to spend time with me. She's always wanting to spend time with me,
Right.
which is very validating.
What's the biggest life lesson you've ever learned from her?
Oh man. Whew. Biggest one are some of the big ones from Serenity. Her name's Serenity, so it's a nice name.
Mhm.
Um, uh, I mean, life lessons from
'Cause
her.
sometimes lessons are subtle and sometimes they're overt.
Mhm.
Sometimes, like, Joe, I'm
Mm.
like, in a conversation, like, you'll say something in a conversation and you won't even know that you impacted me by what you said, but it'll resonate deeply with me,
Yeah.
right? And it'll impact me. Just give you a for instance in terms of what I'm talking about. My wife comes from a big family. I come from a small family. And in the beginning of our relationship, we spend a lot of time yelling at each other, or at least what I described as yelling. And she would always say, I'm not yelling. And I would like say, yes, you are yelling. And what we concluded was she grew up in a household with a lot of boys in a big household. And in order to be heard, you had to speak at a
Mm.
particular volume. I grew up in a one-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn, New York with my mom, my brother, and sister who were 7 years my younger, and our tone in the house was very low. So my mother could only have to elevate her voice a little bit to sound like she was yelling.
Yeah.
And what we realized is that my definition of yelling was different from her definition of yelling,
Yeah.
right? It was two different tones. And what we had to do as a couple was find our equal medium of what yelling was.
Yeah.
But then we had this conversation about, she would always call my tongue. She said, you have a sharp tongue, right? And I said, oh, yeah, I know. I've worked a long time on, getting my tongue really sharp. And she said something to me that I've never forgotten, and I use it in every aspect of my life. And she said, you can say anything to anybody. It's just how you say it.
Yeah.
And it was in a conversation, and she said it, and it was like a lightning bolt,
Mhm.
and it resonates with me. And so when I asked you, like, what does that
Yeah.
mean for
I
your
got a couple of them. A big one that I've learned from her is how to say no.
mm,
She is a really good no person. Like, she is very good at being like, "Nope, don't want that. Nope, I don't like that way. Oh, no, I'm not gonna do that right now," to me, to our daughter, to our employees, to people in the world. And, like, neither of my parents knew how to say no. Like, they both were like, especially to outside people, like, they would say yes to each other when they didn't want to. So they were like, I was taught, like, if you can do something for someone, you must do it. The
mm,
only way you can say no is to say, "Oh, I that's impossible."
mhm,
Like, I'm afraid I can't do that.
mhm,
Versus, like, I don't wanna do that.
Mm-hmm.
That was like not in my realm to be like, I can just say no because I don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
You
Wow.
know, and like I don't have to drop what I'm doing to give my daughter attention just because she wants it. Like my
Mm-hmm.
wife would be like, I will, she's crying, like, I will hug you after I'm done eating. I'm like, you're not gonna hug a crying girl because you're eating. I like blows my mind. But it was like, but daughter learned. She said, you can give me a side hug, you can snuggle my leg while I eat, but I'm eating right now. And it's like I had to really learn that that was okay fundamentally to even do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I had to start practicing it. And then, I've gotten to a point where I'm a lot better at it. And then I had to learn how to say no to her, which
Mm.
would like, like I said, I live in fear of her judgment. So
Right.
I assumed that anything she wanted me to do, if I said no, I was going to be punished. There'd be consequences. So doing the thing was always less risky than saying no.
Mm-hmm.
But like ultimately I was violating myself and becoming resentful. And so
Mm-hmm.
then anything she asked for at all, even if I was a yes, I'd be like resentful about it. And so we got to
Mm-hmm.
this point where she's like, no, I want you to say no. And yeah, I discovered very quickly that there wasn't nearly as much punishment for saying no as I thought.
Right.
And then in the like 1 out of 10 times that she does actually get mad, I actually can tolerate. I don't die. It's amazing.
Right.
She
Yeah.
can be mad, and I can say, I hear you're mad. It's okay to be mad,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't kill me. And like, it doesn't happen nearly as often as I thought. And she just got more and more used to it. Like, oh yeah, he's setting boundaries now. And I can always say, you told me to say it. You told me to say this about, she wanted that. So that's a big thing I've learned from her, continue to learn from her.
Yeah, I asked that question because I think that when we talk about fatherhood, we don't talk enough about relationship,
Mm.
right? We don't talk enough about how we turn up to be fathers is related to how we navigate relationship, particularly relationship of the mothers of our children, whether we're married or not, right? Relationship becomes important. What lessons about relationship did you garner from your dad, watching your
Oh,
dad?
oof. So it's tragic. My parents' relationship story is quite tragic.
Mhm.
They, got married really early, early 20s, right out of college. And, both Catholic, both very, religious. So divorce was like a very chargy thing. And they both believed that marriage was something that you stick out, that you
Mm.
like, that you like, don't give up on.
Mhm.
They intentionally stayed together to teach my sister and I that you don't give up, that you work, that you stay in, you
Mhm.
survive.
Mhm.
And of course, it led to both my sister and I being in unhealthy relationships that we couldn't get out of because we were taught you stay in.
Right.
So it's a tragic thing. The thing they wanted to teach us was actually what caused us to have difficult relationships. So that's super sad. But particularly from my dad, yeah, I learned that relationship is a sacrifice, that you
Mm.
give up who you are to please your wife, to support your kids, that you sacrifice your dreams
Mhm.
to like show up, and that's honorable. It's honorable to self-sacrifice for your family. That was
Mhm.
like his value and his ethic. And
Mhm.
of course it led to a lot of resentment, a lot of unhappiness, and repressed emotions, and then more and more tension with my mom that eventually did end in divorce.
Mhm.
And so that was tragic. They're both a lot happier now, so they've both found very happy lives in divorce.
Mhm.
They're both
Mhm.
still unmarried,
Mhm.
and have they're happier now, and they're figuring out what they who they want to be. But that
Mhm.
was I think a tragic thing I learned from him.
Yeah. Was there a moment in your life that you determined in that situation what was good about that and what was bad about that?
I think it's really only been fairly recently that I determined what was bad about it. It was
Mm.
my schema for such a long time.
Mhm.
And I I think related to my wife saying no and like prioritizing herself, uh, she also has taught me how to have desires and like what I want, and pursuing what I want and asking for what I want. Something my parents didn't teach me to do. They didn't have desires. They
Mhm.
sacrificed, right?
Mhm.
And so as I'm inspired to do that work by her, and also as we've reached a level of financial abundance. I think that's another big thing, is the company's
Mhm.
been really successful, and we're truly in this financial place where really I can't argue I can't afford something. Like there's no more can'ts.
Right.
It's all just, do I want it or do I not want it?
Mm.
And as I gotten to this place where my daughter's amazing and I have this amazing wife and we have all the money we could want. I can do anything with my time. Now I have to really face, what do I want to do? I've lived my life. Okay, yes to this, figure that out. Yes to this, figure that. Yes, this. And so that was really where I was like, oh man, that's where I started. And I was honorable in that. Like as my dad taught me, like it's honorable that you say yes and you show up and you survive and you white knuckle and you force your way through. And then I basically forced my way into this level of success that I couldn't enjoy. I couldn't know what to do with myself or my time from what I wanted. And that's where I'm like, oh, my dad never got to that. Like this is the negative side of that lesson is that, yeah, I endured a lot and it created a more amazing life. Like I white knuckled my way to incredible success. So I'm very grateful for that. But to enjoy that success, now I have to, it's like I won the war and now I can't enjoy peace, like now I need to like enjoy all this abundance. And that has been where I'm like, oh, that means I have to value my desires. I have to say no to lots of things because I have all these opportunities now. I have to say no. I just can't say yes to everything. And a lot of them are good opportunities, one good or another good.
Right.
I'll say no to both because there's this other thing I want to do. And so that's where I've really come to terms with learning to set boundaries, to understand my intrinsic desire. And I think that's something that if dads could go into from the beginning of like, I'm having kids because I want to have kids. I married this amazing woman because I wanted to marry her. There's challenges. There's things that are going to be asked of me that are hard, but like, I don't need to just survive those. I can have what I need and show up for my family without this idea that I'm suffering as a noble practice.
Yeah. Good segue. Serenity Kids baby food. Was the timeline? Was it adjacent to having the child? Was it like, where did that idea come from?
Yeah. So my wife and I were dating seriously. We both had food issues that we solved through diet. She was a lot of gut issues, a lot of allergens, a lot of different physical issues that she cured through switching to a diet of primarily meat and veggies. So cutting out sugars and grains, inflammatory foods. And I'm autistic. I wasn't diagnosed as a kid. So I have been on this long journey of integrating autism. And one of the things with autism is food sensitivities. So I had discovered some food sensitivities, learned a lot of that from her. So we were a very healthy, food oriented couple. And I've always wanted kids. I talked about our babies literally on our first date. I told her about the babies we're going to have. Yeah, didn't scare her away.
That's a whole nother podcast, sir.
Yeah.
That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
We got to come back.
She knew babies were in the picture. She was not like gung ho on babies, but was like not a hard no, or I wouldn't have dated her at all. She was like, okay, I just thought she was older. I think she was 38 when we met. So she's like, she'd sort of given up on babies. She was sort of like, her first marriage didn't work out. She didn't think she'd ever find a man she felt trustworthy enough to have a baby with. And so, but in dating me, she's like, oh, actually this kind of relationship and your personality and the way you describe it, like I could do this. I could have a baby. So it's basically, that was when I decided we were going to have a baby. She tells the story. We decided we were open to maybe having a baby. I was like, we're having a baby.
Right.
And we were at this big health food conference. And she's like, well, let's go see what healthy baby foods are there out there. And, that we went and looked and there was nothing. There was literally no baby foods at this whole conference. And we asked the leaders, like, where's the baby stuff? And there's nothing that meets this standard. Like all the baby foods are pretty bad. Wow. And we're like, this is crazy. And I was in entrepreneurial mode at the time. Also, had been working 90-hour weeks with a coaching business, and like, it was like not sustainable. And my wife loves to not work. So she's like, I want to see you. If we're going to have a kid, like, you need to not work so much. I'm like, okay, yeah, I get that. I need to find a business that doesn't take so much time. And so I was like in entrepreneurial mode, and we discovered this lack of good baby food that met our standards, and kind of dabbled with the idea of starting a company. And then my wife tells the story that, like, yeah, I had thought that maybe that should exist. And I told the story of, we decided we were starting a company. So you can start to see our personalities here. But I kind of got gung ho on it. And I remember it being a joint decision, but she remembers it being something that I led. That I was.
They always see it differently.
We are going to do this. And she said, okay. And we looked into it, and it was like, there was everything, all the boxes checked. Like, there was this huge demand. We figured out how to make it, and we figured out where to get supply, and we figured out the process, and it turned out to be way, 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 way harder than we ever imagined. But the mission was so great and the need was so great. The opportunity was so big that we just kept saying yes as it got bigger and bigger. And then people showed up, resources showed up, and Serenity baby food was born. It took 2 years to get the products out. So we thought we were going to like, okay, let's launch the company and then have the baby. But it kept taking longer and longer because putting shelf stable meat in a pouch and equipment that was designed for fruit purees was just a very challenging manufacturing thing. So it took us 2 years. So we're like, we don't want to wait that long. We're getting older. So let's go ahead and get pregnant. Maybe we'll have the baby and then launch the products. We'll see where it ends up. And we thought we were like 2 months from launch for like a year and a half. So we kept being like, oh, we're going to have this baby and then we're going to launch, or we're going to launch well before the baby comes. And then the products kept getting delayed. And then the baby was 2 weeks early and the launch was about a year late. And it ended up being on the same day. The products went live online the same day our baby was born.
Wow.
It was crazy and always meant to be. Could never have been planned, wouldn't have planned it that way. But it was just like, that was what was the universe wanted for us. And so we, and it mandated that we use other people from the beginning. We had a team built by then and we let them lead. And from the very beginning, we had to rely on others to do it. We couldn't just do it all ourselves. And, set up my wife as setting boundaries and prioritizing family over the company, even though we were the founders. And that really set the tone for our company, which today still very much values family time, self-care, work-life balance. And we have this incredible team that we delegate a lot and they have a lot of autonomy.
Yeah, that's congratulations, man. I'm a firm believer that nothing happens by accident.
Yeah.
I mean, even our chance meeting, me running across you, nothing happens by accident, right?
For sure.
And so one of the things that we're beginning to look at is how the newer generations are looking at things. And I can only imagine that in the baby food space, that the newer generations are probably looking at food and nutrition very differently than our parents looked at it, right? Shove some applesauce in their mouth, they'll be okay. Like, so as you're talking to younger parents now who are looking for alternative food measures, particularly things that are more healthy for their babies, what are you hearing from the younger population that's influencing the products you're creating?
Yeah, we were ahead of trends. So, we were really big on protein and grass-fed meat, well-raised meat, healthy fats, and reducing carbs and sugar. In about 2016 was when we started launching the business. And then now that's huge. Now like carbs and sugars are clearly identified as problematic. Meat and protein is growing enormously. Everybody's looking for more and more protein all the time, with meat and well-sourced meat being a very popular, really good source of that protein. So we've really seen that shift from this low fat, fruit is healthy, whole grains kind of focus when we were kids. If this was healthy, these bland tasting grains and kale and but it needs to be low fat. And we're not really care too much about sugar, to like, oh, actually like healthy food can taste great, really rich fats, really great meat, really, well-seasoned vegetables, versus like just lots of grains or fillers. And we're really seeing that shift in the whole grocery store, and it just hadn't made it to baby. So a lot of our growth has been following the growth of that in the rest of the store. And that's made us the fastest growing and fastest selling baby food in the baby food aisle nationally.
Are you paying a lot of attention to what's going on now in health and human services? Particularly the other day, they just introduced a new food pyramid.
Yeah, they flipped it upside down.
Yeah, how is that impacting you? What about that is impacting your business?
We've been really excited about the changes, the focus of this administration on seed oils, the focus on well-raised meat and the need for protein, the move away from this idea that plant-based or veganism is somehow healthier, superior, and moving away from this whole grains fruit thing. and moving more towards a really good amount of protein, really good meat. So that's been awesome. We also utilize regenerative agriculture for our meat products, and it's a style of raising animals that is in harmony with the planet, that is really different than factory farming, and has been really hard for a lot of farmers to compete with farm subsidies. So this administration has also been big supporters of regenerative agriculture and looking for ways we can better incentivize farmers to raise meat better, which creates a better product, but also is better for the planet, better for the animal, better for the farmer. And
Mm-hmm.
so we've just, been really pleased with the approach this administration has taken. And we love this new food pyramid. Like, our products are right there at the top with exactly what you'd want. We're like, this is what we've been saying all along, like flip it upside down. And so we're excited to see that finally the powers that be are seeing what we've known for a while now
Mm-hmm.
and making that policy.
It's very interesting. I mean, I'm watching it and it's like, it's the first time in a long time that you've heard nutrition and food spoken about at this level with
Yeah.
this level of intensity,
Hmm.
right? And I'm not, from a social perspective, influencing perspective, have not seen a lot of pushback in terms of what's happening. So they're on course. They got something they're doing. Forget, I mean, you can look at the totality and right and have your own opinions
Yeah.
about what's happening. But in this particular area, I don't see a lot of pushback to what's happening out there. And it seems like this has been a long time coming.
Yeah. Healthy food is a bipartisan. I mean, everybody wants healthy food. Everybody wants to feed their kids healthier. And so, like, I think it's in the whatever side of the aisle on, everybody wants healthy food. And so that's easy to support. The problem has been that these big giant food companies dominate the industry and dominate politics. And so, though the population, everybody wants healthy food, at the top, essentially both parties were heavily funded by huge foods, huge pharmaceutical companies. And so politicians just haven't been willing to touch big pharma or big food or big ag. They all three are massive lobbies
Hmm.
that RFK has been willing to challenge. That was his thing, was I'm not gonna be beholden to these big corporations. I'm going to sort of do what no politicians have been willing to do and say it comes down to food. We want to regulate the pharmaceutical companies better. We want to support more sustainable agricultural practices, and those are all wildly popular. I mean,
Hmm.
farmers love it. People, the left and the right
Hmm.
want healthy farmers. They want healthy food.
Hmm.
They want cheap, lower cost drugs that are more regulated and safer, more
Hmm.
access to supplements. So I think it's a really positive thing.
When you think about your audience or your clientele, your consumers, right? They're probably mostly moms, right? Yes.
Yeah,
No?
we only know who buys on our website. We don't know the consumer data. We don't know who's buying at the shelf, but that says about 80% are moms.
So that leads me to, what do fathers need to know and how should they be more engaged about making sure that their children are eating healthy?
Yeah, food and feeding is something that dads could do a ton of. We love to literally put food on the table, right?
Right.
It doesn't just mean earn the money that mom uses to buy the groceries. Like, we can really play a strong role in learning about what is the most nutritious options, look for recipes, look for packaged food options, food shop, order food online, help cook, help serve, help preserve food. Moms are super, super busy. There's a lot going on. And so there's one, especially with new babies, when they're breastfeeding, that's an incredible amount of work to breastfeed. And so they're already feeding the baby all the time. And so if we can make a lot of effort to get the rest of the food, feed her, feed ourselves, feed the baby solid foods once they start at 6 months. And
Hmm.
I have a whole episode on food and feeding for dads, like, this is what you need to know. But it's pretty simple. I mean, it's nutritious foods. It's meat and veggies,
Hmm.
meat, veggies, good fats. Like, exposing to a lot of different flavors early is critical for babies. It shapes their palate going forward. So if they
Hmm.
eat a lot of sweet flavors, and as a baby, they're more likely to crave sugar. But if you expose them to all kinds of different savory, international flavors and meats and sours and bitters, they're more likely to have healthy diet later. So variety's huge. Different flavors is great. meat and veggies is the core of the most nutritious food. So when every little bite you get in them counts, let's focus on that. And so our purees, Serenity Kids purees focus on that. So, our all of our products are great starting at 6 months.
Okay.
And then you can mimic those ingredients or just feed them what you're eating, mash it up or chew it up for them. And, let them pick up food and eat it as well is really key.
Okay. What's driving your content on Dadicated Joe? Like, how are you coming up with what you want to talk about?
Yeah, I have some new dads in my life that I'm relying on right now. So I had a bunch of stuff. About the first year of content I just had in me. I was like, this is all stuff I already know people need to know.
Right.
And now I'm into like, okay, what am I missing? And so I've had a handful of friends have babies or are pregnant, and I'm asking them, having them use. I called them myself Dad GBT. Like, think of me as Dad GBT. Send me your questions. I'll answer them, and then I'll consider making content. So a lot of my best episodes have come from a question somebody asked. I'm like, oh yeah, I can see other people probably have that question. Let me make a little episode on that.
Right. That's interesting because I'm thinking I'm in the same space you are, which is like the first couple of years was me just like, I want to talk about this. There's so much to talk about. And now I'm paying attention to the comments and I'm paying attention to what people are talking about to make sure. And I'm paying attention to who they're watching, who they're listening to. I think that seems to me, Joe, that there is a great surgence of men in particular beginning to give voice to things that men never gave voice to. Like 10, 15 years ago, I probably couldn't have found somebody like you that was concerned about nutrition and children and all the things that we're talking about, today. When you look at this newer generation and you look at fathers and dads, like what are you seeing differently now than you probably would have seen 10, 15 years ago?
It's so refreshing. I mean, dads just, and there's all these stats on this too about how much more time dads are spending with their kids, how much more household labor dads are engaging in. The dads that I meet, of course, I, am probably in some kind of bubble here in Austin, Texas and my circles, but, at least the dads I meet or through my daughter's school and in community are all this like, I just go to work and provide and that's my job. Like you couldn't convince a modern dad that's their role. All you do is make money, right? That's all you should do. They're like, what? No, that's not my job. Even if that's into how they end up spending most of their time because they don't know any other way. They don't believe that's the way. And like my dad, that was his belief. I make money. Wife runs the house. I don't do chores unless she asks me. I'm like a little helper for her sometimes. And like, he literally like would just leave his dishes on the table after a meal. Like he wouldn't even put his dishes in the sink, like he's to that level of like, she runs the house and like, I'm working all day. I'm tired. I'm going to come home and relax. And if I play with the kids, that's like extra, like, oh, cool. What a great dad I am that I played for half an hour, 40 minutes with the kids until mom then comes and puts them to bed after having us all day long. And so like, it's such a huge difference to have men that are like, no, my role as a dad is to model masculinity, is to be engaged, is to do my share of the household labor, to support my wife, to listen to her, to allow her to have her life outside the home, working or social life, that she's, to encourage that when I take the kids on a weekend, I'm not babysitting.
Right. Absolutely.
I'm dad, I have the kids. And so, and so I've seen a huge shift in that. And I've been looking for a place to plug the fair play model of household management. I don't know how familiar you are with this, but I know that you want to talk more about relationships and marriage. And this to me is like one of the most critical things for moms and dads building their relationship. If there's one thing dads can do to help encourage a strong relationship with their wife, it's learn about and adopt the fair play model of household management. And it's this incredible tool that helps balance household management.
Okay.
Because women still do the overwhelming lion's share of the household work, even if both couples are working full time. And my wife and I found this because we had literally the exact same job. Like we worked at the same company, the same job, the same number of hours. So the household should be 50-50. There's just no reason that it shouldn't be. And I believed that. I was like, and I see a lot of men believe this. Men today believe they should be doing,
Mm-hmm.
sharing the household labor. And yet I wasn't. And yet my wife was still frustrated. My wife still felt like she did a lot more. She was resentful at me. She would micromanage the things that I did. She would worry about stuff. She would always be more tired and
Mm-hmm.
would criticize me to others like, yeah, well, I do all this stuff. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I do all my share. And so we discovered fair play was huge because what it does is it's a deck of cards. It puts every household item in a card. There's 100 cards. Every household chore is broken into cards. And then you decide between the two of you who's going to hold which cards. And then you mutually agree on a minimum standard of care for that card. So it's like if I take the trash card, we write down in a spreadsheet. Taking the trash means when it's 3/4 full, it goes out. On Monday nights, it's put on the curb. It's brought back by the end of Tuesday. And if it's stinky, it needs to be taken out within 3 hours. Like that was like that was one of the things we had to add because there was a debate about if it's. She'd say the trash stinks. I'd be like, okay, thanks for the information. She meant I want you to take it out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, well, I'm not going to just drop what I'm doing right this second, take it out just because you told me the trash stinky. But I was like, I can do it within 3 hours. So that's an example of how you negotiate a minimum standard. But literally every chore has that. So we fully agree what it means to hold. And then we divvy up the cards, and then they recommend you shuffle back and like change cards so that nobody has to do the worst tasks all the time. My wife and I don't change very much. We've pretty much settled into our roles and have like our fixed things, and we know what they are. So just every couple has to figure that out. But I've never seen a household that's truly balanced where the woman doesn't perceive herself as doing more. Even if she isn't doing more, she at least perceives herself as doing more. And that creates tension in the relationship. And for men, like we weren't taught how to see these things in the house. We need the card to be written down like, oh, that's something you do. So it really helped me understand all the mental load that she carries and helped her be able to fully trust me to hold stuff and let it go.
Okay.
And that literally creates time. Time is created because we end duplication. And then there's time for self-care, time for adult friendships, and time for what they call unicorn space, which is like doing magical things we love.
Okay.
For me, it's making costumes. I like to make costumes.
Right.
And go water skiing. I like to water ski. She's taking up calligraphy. So things like that. There's like, Mom, you have time to do calligraphy? Like, yeah, because the fair play model creates time.
Yeah.
And there's no duplication. So it's just such a powerful tool. Super huge advocate. It saves marriages. So many marriages end over this chore resentment.
Where's this? Is this your product or is this somewhere?
This is called Fair Play. You go to it's like fairplay.com or something like that, fairplaysystem.com. You can Google it. You'll find it. There's a Netflix documentary about it.
Really? Okay.
Yep. There's a book, and then there's the card deck. And then I do an episode as well. So if you want to see my episode, I published the spreadsheet that we used, which is really useful to use the spreadsheet of the card so that you can track who has what and what the minimum standard is.
Okay. Well, definitely look into that. Yeah. Thank you for that piece of resource. The other thing, though, Joe, that I also think is changing is that children are doing less.
That's probably true.
Right? It's not that there's an inequity between mom and dad, but mom and dad are also not pressing children to do the same amount of chores that they used to do or at all. Because I'm thinking about my own household. I got a 17 and an 18-year-old in my house, and I struggle with them taking out the trash. And we're in this kind of mindset, and I think the old school mindset is, listen, I just need you to go to school, get good grades, graduate, and get out of my house when it's time for you to get out of my house. That's the goal, right?
Yeah. Don't do drugs. Don't get pregnant. Don't cause me problems.
Don't cause me no issues.
The old way.
Yeah.
No, I had a lot of chores that I had to do as a kid, and I don't know how to get my daughter to do chores. Like I feel guilty. It's something I have a list of things I'm doing wrong. One of them would be I'm not teaching her to hold aspects of the house. She wouldn't be very useful at this age. anyway. Like it wouldn't help with the inequity. She's 7, so
Right.
I want her to do it because she needs to learn how to do it. Like she should have that responsibility. But
Right.
yeah, I don't know how to do it because if you take away the shame and threats, is what our parents use. And I'm not going to do that. And so
Right.
I want her to be intrinsically motivated, but like, how do you get somebody intrinsically motivated to do something that sucks, like taking out the trash? So like, I haven't figured that one out.
Yeah. I wonder if it is that because of our backdrop, we see chores as punishment.
Hmm. Could be because that's how they sort of were framed to us.
Right. And
Do this
so,
or else.
yeah,
Yeah.
so you don't feel like you don't want to tell your kids to do anything because you don't want to feel like I don't want to punish them by washing the dishes, going
Yeah.
to the laundry, doing all of those kinds of things. And you feel guilty because oftentimes they tell you that those things build some element of character in our children, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And so I don't know if that's proven,
Yeah. Right.
if it does or doesn't, but I have made the sacrifice. My sacrifice has been I'm not going to do that. We're good, right? Somebody comes and mows my lawn. Somebody
Mhm.
comes
Yeah.
and, I'll take out my own garbage. I wash my own clothes. You wash your own clothes. You clean up your own room. Like that's kind of how our
Yeah.
house, functions. But to your point, there is still, my wife, I think we're in that space now where there is still a little bit of tradition attached to masculinity and femininity, right?
Yeah.
And so my wife will say, "No, you don't cook. Like that's not what we do in my household because that's not how we grew up.
Mm.
Like, but I
Wow.
do expect you to do other things, right?"
Yeah.
And so, and it looks divided by gender, but it's not really divided by gender, it's divided by tradition,
Yeah.
right? That happens to be gender based, but now it's not looked as gender. It's not looked as gender based. It's more traditional based. This is how our household did X,
Mm.
and this is how I grew up, and this is what makes me comfortable in our household.
Yeah.
And so, and I wonder sometimes how that messaging will translate to my son and my nephew, meaning
Yeah.
when they have their own families, how will
Mhm.
they navigate that particular space?
Yeah. Yeah, I always feel comforted by the fact that modeling is such a big way they learn.
Mm,
Because when I think of, am I making her do the right things or am I teaching her the right things? Like, well, maybe not, but like if my wife and I have a positive relationship, if we're modeling, showing up, she sees us doing chores, she sees me doing as many chores as mom, she's gonna learn that like doing chores, holding the household, doing your part is valuable, even if we don't like force her to do it. We
mhm,
invite her to help. We ask her to help. She does have a couple of jobs that she sees as hers. And sometimes she'll see me doing and be like, that's my job, and come and take it over. So
mhm,
like she does kind of have some sense of that. We haven't been real structured of like, these are your chores and you have to do them by this date or else, but like I feel like we model a lot of that.
mhm,
But we've really changing the mold on parenting. I think you opened up saying that we tend to parent like our parents parented, and I
mhm,
think that that's a big change with this generation. I think that we're not just trying to parent a little better than our parents,
mhm.
we're trying to do it revolutionary,
Right,
completely different mold of like men and women owning the house equally. Dad's as engaged as moms.
right.
Emotional expression is valuable. Like
Yeah.
feel your feelings, have your feelings. It's okay to be upset. We don't have to fix everything.
Mhm.
Like health, completely different relationship with food, different, the avoidance of punishment. I mean, punishment is in a lot of at least progressive circles almost gone. Like parents don't almost stopped punishing kids, like that it's done through relationships, and it's kind of out of fashion now, especially corporal punishment. I mean, we were spanked,
Right.
so that's almost unheard of, other than in like kind of rural communities or places that are a little more traditional. But
Right,
at this point it's like weird if you hit your kid.
right.
And even timeouts are kind of going by the wayside, as like this is not, the data is clear that like this isn't a great way to parent kids, to like make them suffer, that
Yeah.
just showing your displeasure is enough, like just
Right.
asking for their help, explaining the natural consequence is
Yeah.
enough. And so like that's all very, very different. So I'm excited to see how she does it differently, because she's going to be even better than us as a
Yeah.
parent. And, so that'll be, I'm excited to see as she grows and has kids to see what she learns and what she does differently.
Hmm.
I think that there's a lot of hope for
Yeah.
this next generation being so much more emotionally aware, so much more, so much better relationship skills, so much more
Mhm.
equality, so much more autonomy and self-worth
Right.
that, I think it's going to really shift the dynamics.
Yeah. I think we've learned a lot about the transference of love doesn't transfer through pain. I think that is part of what we're talking about because that was,
It's a fundamental belief our parents had.
yes,
Spare the rod, spoil
transference of
the
love
child.
happens through the transference of
Yeah.
pain.
Like, but if I'm tough enough, right? And so, the spirit of that, which I think is important, is that safety comes through boundaries.
Mm,
So being permissive and just, I'll let you do whatever you want and I'll give you anything you want also isn't love.
right.
And so boundaries are key for a kid to feel safe. And so that's where we can validate feelings while holding a boundary. No, you
Mhm.
can't have more ice cream. I hear that that's really sad. I understand that that's sad. It's okay for you to cry about it. It's okay for you to be sad. You can't have more ice cream, but no, you can't have more. You can have more after dinner,
Right.
but you can't have more now. And I have an episode on toddler tantrums that's essentially that, but we still do it. You do it, probably do it with teenagers, and even works for wives.
Right.
No, you can't have this, but I hear that that's sad. Like it's okay that it's sad. So
Mhm.
validating an emotion,
Well, what
but
you're talking
holding
about
a
is
boundary. Yeah.
conditional love, right? It's conditional love. It's based on condition, but in this instance, the condition is not pain,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, interesting. Conditional love. I feel like the love is unconditional. I love you no matter what. That doesn't mean I give you ice cream whenever you want, because I
Mhm.
love you so much. There is pain in you not having ice cream. So I'm like willing to
Okay.
let you suffer in the fact that you don't have anything you want if I know it's bad for you, but
Right.
I'm with you in your pain. I'm not causing your pain.
Right.
Sugar does this thing to your body that isn't healthy. It's the sugar's fault. It's not my fault. I'm just the steward of that.
Right.
And I know it sucked because I want to eat ice cream all day too. I get it. So I'm empathizing with your pain. I'm here for you. I'm
Right.
lovingly holding the boundary. It's not like, no, you can't ice cream. That's stupid, or well, if
Right.
you were better at school, you could have had ice cream. Like I'm not, I don't set myself up as the gatekeeper, and I'm withholding this because as a way to control or manipulate you. I'm
Mhm.
just here to keep you safe. I wouldn't let you run in the road, right? Even if you wanted to. I'm not going to let you eat ice cream all day long. I'm not going to let you watch TV all day long. There's things that are like my job is to keep you healthy. I try to let her have as much as she wants. So if she wants ice cream, oh, you want a sweet thing, you want some banana, or like, how about you eat a meat stick and then you could have more ice cream,
Mm.
like I'll negotiate,
Right. Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
it's still a boundary. It's still like, but like ultimately there's a line, and I have to hold that.
Yeah. Joe, my goodness, man. Thank you so much, bro. You are, man, you're a wealth of information. And so much success to everything that you touch and do. We'll stay in touch because I heard you say Austin. So,
Yeah.
the conference that we're hosting is actually going to be in Dallas. So we're coming
Oh,
your way. And
great.
so I will reach out to you as we
Love to be
learn
there.
more about what we're doing so
That'd
that
be
we
great.
can
Love to
get
help
you
with that.
into the space.
Yeah.
Tell everybody how they can get everything, how they can get to the podcast, where they can purchase the Serenity Kids, everything. Tell them how
Yep.
to get to everything.
So Serenity Kids baby food's available at basically every grocery store nationwide, Target, Walmart, all your grocery stores. Also on our website, myserenitykids.com. You can use code Dadicated15 to get 15% off on our website. Also on Amazon, all our products are on Amazon. Just search Serenity Kids baby food. And then the podcast is Dadicated Joe on all podcast channels, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and then on all social handles at Dadicated Joe, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, everywhere, or what is it called now? X.
Yeah.
Like anywhere you get social media, you can find Dadicated Joe to get little tips and tricks each
Mhm.
week, as well as the announcements about the podcast.
All right. Thank you so much. And to all my I Am Dad podcast listeners, thank you so much for joining us. You know how I like to leave you. Always be kind to others as you're kind to yourself, or you might find yourself by yourself. Always shoot high for your goals, because even if you miss, you'll be amongst the stars. And that's my good friend and mentor, Art Mitchell, always said to me, Kenny, it's nice to be important, but it's much more important to be nice. Until next Sunday, be good to yourself, be nice to others. Take care of yourself. God bless, and peace out.
Stay dedicated.
Stay dedicated.
Who we do it for the children, who we live it for the vision, who we stand with now, with each other. Say it loud, say it proud. I'm Dad, or I am Dad. The journey's clear. Voices of fathers the world will hear. Hope and strength.